is what we call
hater shit.
There is no better term.
You know me. If you know me, you know me. If you know, you know. You know, so.
States is to adopt a system of universal income, specifically and especially because of artificial intelligence. And people get so angry and they say that I'm living with my head in the clouds and I'm a communist and I'm describing a utopian paradise that will never exist. And I disagree. It has to exist. Like, everyone who drives delivery jobs, those jobs are going to be phased. Will be handling delivery jobs. They projected by 2033. So that's that. In addition to that, it's most entry-level jobs, factory jobs, cookies, pizzas, any sort of delivery. We have all of these small little, whether they're chains or independently owned businesses. We have so many of them. Look at even Pizza Domino's. Pizza Domino's is testing robotics that will come to the shop, pick up the pizza from a robot that makes the pizza, pick up the pizza, load it into the vehicle. It's like one of those, it's smaller than a smart car, but it drives itself. It's using software that began in the Tesla, and they've modified it. So we've discussed this before. If you've been on my lives discussing artificial intelligence learns. ANI, artificial narrow intelligence, learns and has the ability to learn one thing to do, whether it's scan for an obstruction. If you're a self-driving car, you want to know if there's a thing in front of you, you should swerve. So it's being taught, the AI is programming to actually, number one, look for an obstruction, number two, find a way around it, and then as it gets deeper, it's actually being programmed with larger data sets to label what the obstruction is. Is it another vehicle? Is it a car? Is it a human? Is it a bicycle? In addition, it's also being able to, is it a scooter? It's also being able to track the rate of acceleration of the vehicle or person or object, the shape and size, the weight of the vehicle, all with artificial intelligence from a state of perception. So when you think of things this way, and this is not even touching on, Gary Vaynerchuk, if you guys don't follow him, he does marketing and he dabbles a little bit in all of the hot topics. He talks about garage sailing, resale. He talks about commodifying your artwork and digital artwork. He talks about Bitcoin. He talks about marketing and sales, and he talks about morals and values and ethics and kindness and compassion and small business. And he's kind of like a mix of a motivational and a business coach. From where I'm sitting, from the content I've consumed, which is almost all of it. He started talking about artificial intelligence taking over in the influencer space. So we have all of these people my age and older and younger, but a lot of my what's that word? Not genealogy, my generation, that has literally thought, oh my God, this is fantastic. We finally found a job where I can get up out of bed, put on the clothes that I like and talk about them, use the face products that I like and talk about them, put on the makeup that I enjoy and talk about it, and, go do the activities I like to do and talk about it and get paid for that. And that's going to be phasing out, on its in its own. They're going to be using artificial intelligence, and here's why. When you're working with a human influencer, you have to have some sort of control over that human. You don't want that human to destroy your brand. You don't want that human to go out in public and make a fool of themselves while they're wearing your brand. And even less nefarious than that, you don't want other people to misperceive or hate on that person that's the influencer. So AI is taking over in all of these niches, and I hate to say it, but jobs are gone in 10 years or less we're going to have to come up with some way for human beings to survive, whether that's just, merit and reward systems for housing, and any sort of increases that a person would want, or whether it's different kinds of jobs. We're going to have to come up with solutions because we're replacing the entry-level jobs really quickly. And to be honest, those minimum wage jobs aren't doing much for society anyways. And I don't know anyone who works a minimum wage job who can afford a family, a rent, and a car note. I don't know anyone who can afford a rent. Someone that I was discussing housing with told me that there is not in the entire city of Chicago a median average for the rent for a one-bedroom in any zip code that can be afforded by a minimum wage income. That every single person has to have some sort of, roommate situation in order to afford a roof over their head, that's not going to be practical for long. And if we don't address these situations, we're going to have, a hell to pay. And I mean that. People are not just going to die in the streets. People are going to start taking over properties. People are going to start, taking ownership of things that aren't theirs. People are going to force other people out. So we have a really awesome opportunity to foreshadow these types of issues and then come up with resolution to them before they become an issue. And I'll talk more about that later on different lives. But thank you guys for the gifts. I appreciate it. Everyone have a great day. I'll keep you guys posted.
My baby boy. Did she miss visits again? She's showing old pictures. Other caseworkers have promised we would never be put out again. Says pumping and sharing updates, June 27th, 2024.
I have been going online on TikTok and updating on the situation over the last few days. I know I told you guys what was going on here and showed you guys everything as it was taking place, that we were taken to or accepted to housing back in February when my son was born, and that they told us we would be at a temporary shelter for 2 to 3 weeks and then a 6-month long-term shelter until we got our apartment or townhome. They're now moving things around and saying that we are going to be taken to a different shelter. We don't know where or when.
Do y'all think she's gonna accept the other shelter? If the other shelter obviously is not gonna be like a hotel, they're not gonna have their own private room with furniture and TV and cable in their bathroom and their all this luxurious. They're not gonna have that at the next shelter. I bet they're gonna have to downgrade. Does anyone think she's gonna go to another shelter, or do you think she's gonna be like, no, I'm just gonna be homeless again? That's what I think she'll do. I don't know if she'll I don't know. I don't think she would downgrade. Unless she really thought she would get an apartment afterwards. Because in her head, she thinks I'm so close of getting a fucking house. But in everyone else's head, they're like, bitch, you haven't had your kids. She hasn't even had overnight stays.
They say that if we have not been taken to a different shelter by the 8th, that we would be responsible for figuring it out on our own, which is not what they told us before.
Okay, so I was wondering, whenever they came and knocked on the door and said, hey, do you all want to go? The bus, there's blah, blah, blah. I wonder if that's their nice way of being like, hey, do you want to go ahead and go? Because soon y'all will be getting kicked out. And Heather told her, no, they don't want to go. Of course, why would you want to leave a free hotel room?
I was sexually assaulted. I was bludgeoned. I was robbed. This is not, the way that it's supposed to be. We're working with the director from Equitable Solutions directly and one of the staff here at the shelter directly, along with a few of the city officials and representatives. And then I have my own caseworker from DCFS, caseworker from TASC, and, court-appointed officials. with all of these services
That's not
going
good.
on, there should be no way that we would ever be outside. I pump breast milk every 4 to 6 hours throughout the night and day. It's just not realistic or productive that people who are complying with services through the court and have children and take all of their drug tests and are always negative would be punished. You know, it's almost like that in itself is manufacturing crime. Check out this article.
No, thank you.
So I'm going to actually read an article that I wanted to share about the criminalization of homelessness and the adverse effects that this has on society overall. It actually puts everyone from the rich to the poor in a more vulnerable state. And I'm going to go live right now and read that article with you guys if you'd like to join me. Hi guys. Okay, so
Hey guys.
this is from Chicago Hopes for Kids. And this is an article that I found incredibly intelligent, very easy to understand, and it hits all of the main points that I've been trying to articulate while actually being affected firsthand by these circumstances. Living on the streets or in public spaces means constantly being vulnerable. This includes being susceptible to natural disasters, to illness, and to the system and people we have to place our ideally and to the system and people we have in place to ideally protect us. Law enforcement and our criminal justice system. Cities are responding to growing frustrations toward homelessness from the public with a new tactic, legislation designed to hide the homeless rather than help them. Being homeless is not explicitly illegal in the United States.
Okay, so this is so annoying. Is this how y'all feel whenever I have to read something? I hate it whenever she reads something to me, and I don't want y'all to hate it whenever I read to y'all.
There are civil and criminal laws which make the behaviors of homeless people illegal. Law enforcement threatens or punishes homeless people for doing things in public that every person has to do. This includes activities such as sleeping, sheltering oneself, asking for donations, or simply existing in public spaces. It also includes arbitrarily enforcing other laws and the practice of sweeps, which displaces homeless people from outdoor public spaces through harassment, threats, and evictions from living in camps. These activities make it very difficult for homeless people to exist without committing a crime. A report from the National Homeless Law Center tracked the upwards trend of criminalizing homeless in 187 cities and found that it actually has an adverse effect. In these cities, the practices of camping in public increased by 92%, begging increased by 103%, and loitering increased by 35%. These trends happen for many reasons, but partially because certain periods of incarceration under laws criminalizing homelessness directly harm a person's ability to maintain or access public housing. Furthermore, when a homeless person has been arrested for unavoidable behavior, they now have a criminal record and will often miss work for an extended period of time. This creates barriers.
Whoa, that escalated way too quickly.
That lessen the likeliness of employment or losing a pre-existing job. Also, court costs associated with resolving or appealing a case can amount to hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Individuals who do not have the resources to pay are then subject to additional jail time, once again interrupting any chance of maintaining employment. In these ways, an arrest or conviction can lead to lifelong barriers. The consequences of civil penalties are similar, as unpaid tickets can also lead to suspension of one's driver's license or repossession of a vehicle, which drastically limit the prospects of work for that person. The 2019 federal court case, Martin versus the City of Boise, involved 6 residents of the city who had experienced homelessness and who were arrested or cited due to violating a city ordinance that made it a misdemeanor to use any of the street's sidewalks, parks, or public spaces as a camping place at any time. The plaintiffs claimed this was a violation of their 8th Amendment constitutional rights, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. The court ruled that cities cannot arrest or punish people for sleeping on public property unless they provide adequate and accessible indoor accommodations. While this ruling
acknowledge the fact that it is unfair to criminalize individuals for behaviors that are unavoidable and presumed they had a choice in the matter, there are still too many people in local governments who think that the right answer to homelessness is arresting people. The majority of cities have too few shelter beds. This shortage has been made worse since federal funding was scaled back in 2012. Our system gravitates towards the easiest and quickest solution to homelessness, which is arresting people and getting them out of sight. However, this is far from an adequate solution, as whether people are in jail or on the streets, they nevertheless remain homeless, increasing crimes. The solution is an attempt to avoid the core issues of homelessness and does not offer people the necessary resources to alleviate the barriers that cause homelessness in the first place. And I posted this in my story today. There's a direct link to this article. I found this article, as I said, it pretty much summarizes everything that I have experienced. I have been out here now for 4 years. I'm a 37-year-old woman, mother of 4. I've never had a drug addiction. I've never been chemically addicted to something. I have been out here now for 4 years. I'm a 37-year-old woman, mother of 4. I've never had a drug addiction. I've never been chemically addicted to something, meaning I woke up and said, oh my God, I need to have this. I have engaged in recreational drug use. I do regret it. But it's not something I currently do. Maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it never affected my family life. It never got in the way of me.
What? Fucking, which you just said 10 years ago? 10 years ago. And then you said, it's not like it affected my family or anything, but you are whole ass homeless and with no family members around you. That, your mental, in my opinion, your drug inducing affected your mental illness even further.
Parenting, and it did not lead to me being homeless in any way.
Oh my gosh, it definitely affected your parenting. Do you not remember why your kids were taken away that night? You weren't sober. What? And then you popped up, girl.
The circumstances surrounding my specific homelessness is that I was violated domestically. I was a victim of domestic abuse, and my significant other was incredibly savvy at working the system. He was the person I appeared on the reality show Love After Lockup with. Everyone doubted me when I said he was beating me up. They said that I was crazy. But then if you Google his name and the person he left me for, he went to jail for beating her up as well. He also went to jail for beating up the woman before me. Everyone's like, maybe Heather wasn't crazy, and they're apologizing to me, and the bloggers are rewriting their stories, but it didn't help me any. The bloggers rewriting their stories has not protected me from the slander at my jobs, has not protected me from the in-person stalking, has not protected me from the rape, from the sexual assault in the street in a tent, from having the wall ripped off my tent and being kicked in the face while 18 weeks pregnant with my son Weston.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting so tired of hearing this over and over again. I'm about to get me a big ass notepad and I'm about to write all this shit down so I can get to the bottom of this. This is ridiculous.
None of that actually helped me. So I'm very grateful for anyone who rewrites their inaccurate blog depictions of me. I appreciate those retractions tremendously. However, it's not enough. 2020 was the first time that I was ever without a home. My children, I have 4 now, I had 3 at the time, lived with me from their birth in 2006 all the way till 2020, 4 or 5 days a week from the time they were born, if not more. There were weeks that they were with me 6 days a week. And this is consistently from the day they were born all the way until I began being abused by this person. When I was abused by him, he was on parole, and I called his parole office and I said, he's abusing me. And they said, well, he listened on the other earpod, the Apple AirPods. He had one of mine. I didn't know. I thought I lost it. He was listening in the apartment upstairs that one of our friends lived in. And I was on the phone with parole saying, I need help. Parole advised me to go to 555 West Harrison and file for an emergency order of protection, which I did, but I couldn't get there in my vehicle because he heard me that I was going to go there.
Late and he went there first, and then the judge denied it, and then you went back and tried to do it again. And wait, can we please stop?
And he disconnected the starter in my vehicle.
I then had to use public transportation, which gave him ample amounts of time to race me to the courthouse. And in the state of Illinois, if someone files for an EOP against you, you cannot file for one against them until you've been heard in court in response to the one they have filed against you. I did show up in court. His emergency request was thrown away. It was not granted. But that was too late. I already was thrown into the street. An apartment and stability that I had for my children my entire life was given to him. And I was thrown outside, where I have remained ever since. I've lived in Airbnbs. I slept in the backseat of my vehicle before it was mechanically destroyed, sabotaged, and sold, supposedly by auction. I paid my vehicle off in full. I don't owe any tickets on the vehicle at all. If I have any tickets at all, it has nothing to do with the vehicle. I don't owe any money on the vehicle. So they have no right to sell my vehicle at auction. They had no right to mechanically deface my vehicle. They had no right to break into a gated community and, key my vehicle, all of which was reported to law enforcement. Domestic violence led me to be homeless in 2020. But what has continued to, allow for these circumstances is the fact that I have been repeatedly and regularly calling 311 for assistance, going through the proper city channels, and not being assisted in the ways that are supposed to happen, in the ways that we as humans deserve. So now...
Hey, I want you to change your nail color. I haven't gotten my nails done in a while, and I keep seeing that pink, and it's getting on my nerves. I mean, no offense, I like pink sometimes, but can you just do a different color? Because I can't paint mine yet. I'm not rich like you. I thought about the other day, I was like, I'm about to just go to the dollar store and paint my damn nails.
Going through the proper city channels and not being assisted in the ways that are supposed to happen, in the ways that we as humans deserve. So now we were finally accepted into housing, and we have caseworkers through the Department of Family and Child. We have caseworkers through TASK, which is the people who monitor for drug use. And since we're in housing, they're testing us for drug use, which we comply with. And we have passed all of our drug tests, no problem, because we don't drink and we passed all of our drug tests, no problem, because we don't drink and we don't drug. Neither myself nor Xavier engage
don't drink
in those
and we
sorts
don't
of
drug.
Xavier does take CBD and marijuana still, which is legal in the state of Illinois, so that's not an issue. But there have never been any other drug issues other than marijuana for either one of us. And I use the term issue incredibly loosely. Now, being in compliance with all of these court-ordered, services, there is no excuse. If the ball is dropped again, these are blatant human rights violations. We are in, contact constantly with everyone. We are complying with all of our services. We come back here on certain days and all hell is breaking loose, and they're saying, well, people are being moved to different shelters and you guys are here until the 8th and we'll let you know when it's time to go and where you're going to go. So we're working with the director of the funding group, Equitable Solutions, and a specific staff member here. So we have our 2 contact people. I'm going to text them as soon as I get off of this live. But we have not been given any sort of foreshadowing or plan, which is incredibly destructive to a homeless person. Xavier and I have established ourselves here because we were told we would be here for 6 months, and that from here we would go directly to our own apartment or townhome. We're a family size of 6 with my 4 children. So, we are waiting for that. And unfortunately, it looks like that's not going to be what happens. It looks like rather than them keeping their word, we're going to be moved to another shelter before getting into our apartment, possibly. We still have our fingers crossed. It's not too late. It's not the 8th yet, and there's still time that they could give us our housing. But, we have referrals in for housing and case management in all areas. If there is a way, that way should be shared with us, and you would think that it is. As a person dealing with all of these court-ordered services and being compliant with all of them, plus being a full-time mother, which is my number 1 job and is never going to fall to my number 2 job, no matter what goes on. As long as I have feet and can speak, I am going, and ears to hear, I am going to be checking on my children and doing everything I can to provide for them, send them food, send them groceries, drop off gifts, give them hugs, be on the phone with them, playing Roblox with my youngest, doing whatever I can to be active in their lives, which is my first responsibility as a mother, period. I have a 4-month-old son. Breast pumping and breastfeeding is a responsibility of mine. So with all of that being said, can you imagine a person who is told that they would have 6 months in a shelter and then move to an apartment? What it might be like to establish yourself in the community, begin to create relationships with the church, begin to create relationships in the community, begin to seek opportunities. Xavier loves art. Our church just started an art program. Xavier has expressed interest, and we've emailed
the
director of the art program so that Xavier could get involved. I've expressed interest in volunteering with meal programs. So to move from the position of homelessness into, fully functioning member of society, which I've been my entire life, certain considerations need to be made. If they're not made, it's almost like a sabotage. Like, rather than the resources working to help us, it almost feels as though they are intentionally working to sabotage. And that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable to the taxpayers for the money that they pay into these programs, for the money that they pay to resolve these issues like homelessness. And not only that, but when you're homeless, people are not able to live. In the article that I just shared with you guys, and as I said, if you go to my story here on the 1HGV Law account, there is a direct link that you can click on and you can read the story for yourself and review it. And I would be grateful if you would be a contributing member of society. What is your impact, as I so commonly ask? But if you would read that article, you would see that all crimes of violence, crimes of theft, crimes of sexual assault, they all go up as the homeless population rises. So if the city is aware of that, and the state of Illinois is aware of that, and the federal government is aware of that, unless they were in the business of manufacturing crime, they would resolve that. So my only hope, you guys, moving forward is that we have AI, right? AI can easily be a case manager. Let's say we're in a facility like the one we're in now. I believe there are 100 rooms here, and they accept couples. So they have the capacity to house up to 200 people, right? Very simply, those people can be logged in a Rolodex, in a CRM of sorts. All of their compliance to court-ordered or case management-ordered services, task, court dates, job searching, volunteering, or none of that, just waking up, hygiene, depending on each individual person.
Why is
that
this
can
pump
all be
still on your
logged in
boob?
some sort of CRM that can be created specific to need. Just like EMR has been created to healthcare need. We have electronic medical records in every hospital and doctor's office. That's not universal. Those are not just one standard template. They go in, we get technologists to go in and meet with our doctors and say, okay, what is it that you need? Can I sit in on a visit? What do you ask these patients? What's your HEENT? Head, ears, eyes, nose, throat. What's your ROS, review of systems?
What are you saying?
What is your protocol? Where do you
the
free chart? Where do you need lines for prescription? Where do you need a data entry field for, environmental impact and circumstances? So we can do the same thing, and I believe we should have. In 2024, there is zero excuse that we should have millions of apps that are money-making apps, that are consumerism-based, and absolutely no, central organization for homelessness and services for the poor. I mean, that's obscene. So we should already be ahead of the game on this, and we should have these central intake systems where we have no need for human case managers, or maybe one human case manager to manage 200 cases because of the AI function. Say, for instance, I do or don't, say, for instance, Susan was ordered to take drug therapy, was ordered to take individual therapy, and was ordered to take therapy with her children or with her parent. If Susan no-shows to that therapy, the integrated electronic record from that therapy should be directly connected to the housing resource. So if she no-shows, it sends a notice to the housing resource and says, oops, Susan didn't show up today. Is she okay? And then maybe the AI sends an email or a text to Susan. Hey, Susan, you missed your therapy for the day. Are you okay? And Susan has the ability to respond, yes, I'm okay. I'll be there tomorrow. Or no, I'm not okay. At that point, a human can come up and check on Susan. Or if Susan doesn't answer at all, a human can come up and check on Susan. It doesn't eliminate the need for humans, but it dramatically reduces the need, which makes it easier for everyone because they could still get paid the same amount but there could be one case manager for every space like this. Do you see what I'm saying? And the workload decreases dramatically. And if we have too many people who are able and willing to work in the field of case management, hey, guess what? Take 2 days a week and still get a full-time salary. Go home with your family and enjoy them. And the same for the people who are living through homelessness. We should not be suffering in 2024. I have said this before and I will say it again. We should not be suffering in 2024. Suffering is not pertinent to the human condition, is not beneficial to the human experience. And people who say that it is are lying. Saw this reel, or maybe it was a TikTok, about this guy who worked as an EMT at festivals, and he was like, duct tape your feet when you have to walk far distance so that you don't get blisters. And I regularly get blisters. Like, I wear the hell out of my shoes because whenever I switch, I get blisters. So I taped my feet. Look.
Ew,
and I'm like bleeding all through
blood?
here. It didn't work.
June 27, 2024 at 3:58 p.m. God, I don't know what to do. I know what's best for my family. Staying together, taking walks to the park or by the lake, picnics, movies, learning activities, car rides in the sunset with the music up, high and the windows down, vacations and relaxation, togetherness. I don't know how to provide that under the current regime. I cannot with these shoes, bleeding from both heels and blistered on the baby toes and the finger ring toes. Oh. Ew! Oh, God. Ew. Why are you doing that? Why would you do that? That's not okay. God is within her. She will not fall. Was I the prisoner or the saved? Am I now the prisoner or the saved? God, please make our way together. VLAWHLG. Amen. Oh, that's a video. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Why are you just taking a picture of your midriff? Your midriff. Who talks like that? When did I start talking like that? Heather shared a memory from 2 years ago. Oh my God. I accidentally clicked on it. And the way she's talking. Okay, listen.
Sorry, you guys, that I haven't been on. I've been on my backup page, CC La Senora.
Wow, CC La Senora.
I'm keeping both of those pages running just in case. Also, I started a variety show, so sorry, you guys, that I haven't been on. I've been on my backup page, CC.
I'm so sorry, guys.
Sorry, you guys, that I haven't been on. I've been on my backup page, CC La Senora. I'll link it here. I'm keeping both of those pages running just in case. Also, I started working on that. Super exciting. Please check that out, and that can be found from the CC La Senora page. Okay, love you. I'm working on that. Super exciting. Please check that out, and that can be found from the CC La Senora page. Okay, love you.